morning training sessions. As you all know that on 1st of October, the World Heritage Center launched the third cycle of periodical reporting on World Heritage for the Asia-Pacific region. And this was done through a web news on our webpage, together with a video message from the director of the World Heritage Center. So this exercise will be carried out between 2020 and 2022. In fact, Asia-Pacific is the third region to undertake this important reporting exercise after Arab states and Africa, which is a statutory requirement under the World Heritage Convention. It is also the first time that in the history of periodical reporting that all preparatory meetings for a region were held online only due to the global COVID situation that we are all facing this year. We've been very happy to see that many of our stakeholders across the region have adopted the tools that we made available, from the self-paced learning modules to the online Teams exchange platform for national focal points. Together with our field offices, the UNESCO Category 2 centers, and also the advisory bodies, the Asia-Pacific unit and other colleagues of the World Heritage Center will continue to provide coordination and assistance, and I'm very grateful for the active participation and the support of your national authorities. All of you should now have received your access emails, define your password, and access the sections 1 and 2 of the questionnaire. So similarly, the site managers in your respective countries should all have received their access data and should be able to log in and fill out our section, section 2 of the questionnaire for their respective World Heritage site. So today's session focuses on section 1 of the online questionnaire, which is to say the implementation and application of the World Heritage Convention at the national level. We will go through the main 4 topics covered in section 1 and look at some more complex questions in greater detail. At the end of our presentation, which is set to last around about 40 minutes, you will have the opportunity to ask any question you may have. As we progress with our series of training sessions, I would like to remind all of you that periodical reporting is meant as a state party-driven process. In this spirit, we strongly encourage that you organize national workshops with World Heritage Site managers in your respective countries. Of course, with full consideration given to the current health situation. I think in this regard, I would say that countries with a large number of cultural and natural heritage properties, India, China, Japan, New Zealand, to mention but a few. In other regions, this exercise, the National Training Workshop, has proven to be very effective in ensuring engagement and coordination throughout the reporting phase. So without further delay, I now pass the floor to my colleagues Michelle Van and Valentino et al., who will begin by quickly reviewing the practical modalities of accessing and fill out the questionnaire. I would like to also mention that here we have a talented team with Anatole Udel-Diat and Akane Sakamura, and also others to support you through the periodical reporting exercise. Thank you. Now the floor is yours, Michelle and Valentino.
Yes, hello. I think to start this morning, yes, hi. I think we can start with Valentino, since we've had a number of emails from many of you regarding access and whatnot. So I'll pass the floor to Valentino for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening for some of the people. We have received a couple of requests concerning questionnaire password access. Uh, what we will provide you, I think Michelle already sent you all of the procedures, the steps how to create a password. For those who still have not received, we will recommend you to check on your spam, because for each of requests we receive, we have sent back the access email to you. So if you have still problems in accessing your questionnaire, kindly please just inform us on this point, and we can do it by phone remotely. Ideally, we'll try to find a good time for both of us, because as you know, there's time difference between France, where we are, at the UNESCO headquarters, and from your country. It could be plus 12 hours. So we will try to find appropriate time so we can help you remotely. Concerning the access, you will see on your screen, there are two pages, two platforms, if I may say. There is one what we call periodic reporting on your left-hand side. This is give you general information on periodic reporting in general, the whole cycle, the previous cycles, the timeline, and all the information recording periodic reporting as a statutory requirements of the World Health Convention. And your left-hand side, where you will find the platform where you will be able to log in with your password and your username in order to access your questionnaire. The address below you will see is wh.unesco.org/en/PR cycle frame. So from this will be your platform where you will always need to log in order to access your questionnaire. Next slide, please. So these are the questions that we have received from some of you and from the previous participants who has already filled in the questionnaire from other regions. So password and login question. We have a video, so you may want to look at the video before, because it helps you also to know how to create a password. Sometimes the procedure might be a bit complex, but this can help also. Can log information be changed? Yes, once you already create your password, if you go on the top right-hand side, you will see your login, your name or your email appeared. So you click on it, and then you can modify the information. We will strongly recommend you to do that if there is any change in phone number, or you decide to change your email, or you decide to change your title. So this can be done from here. We'll show you on the screen a little bit how it can be done. What language in the questionnaire? The language is English or French. This is a statutory World Heritage Convention language. So the questionnaire should be answered whether in English or in French. Most of you, we have pre-filled the questionnaire in the language of correspondence with UNESCO, which is the case most of you is in English. If there are site managers who prefer to fill in the question in French, please inform us as soon as possible so that we can change the language. But still, you can still change the language within the platform page. We'll show you also this. But some pre-filled answers will be in English, still in English. This is why we need to change the language. We need to pre-fill it in French then. There's different types of question. I think Anatole is going to explain you very in a while what are the types of question we have. Can we work simultaneously? Actually, yes, but strongly not recommended to do so. So because some of you might sharing their password, and for national focal points, culture, nature, you can work simultaneously on the questionnaire, but be aware that if someone can change the answer they have probably put because it is the latest answer or latest saving which will be taken into consideration. So you can work simultaneously, but maybe you would want to work also in collaboration. So to know that who is going, the answers, I mean, not to erase the previous answers or this kind of thing. Save, 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 always save when you go from one page to another, keep on saving your question. Please save your questionnaire. In any case, when you switch pages from one questionnaire to another, you will be asked to save the questionnaire. How many questions? How long it take? Will it take? There is many questions, especially for section 2. For section 1, you have 138 questions, and most of the questions might not be available readily to you because you might need, like when you come to the chapters on funding, you might need to look at the Ministry of Finance because the data is not really available to you. We also the question on annual public expenditure, where you will be asked to provide percentage of total expenditure spending on culture and the preservation of culture, natural heritage in your country. So that might take you a lot of time to calculate and to find the correct percentage. So be aware that the completion of the questionnaire for section 1 is the 31st of January, which is the right time in 2 months, taking consideration of end of year for some countries, greeting season period where you have some holidays period. So take this into consideration because it might go very quickly before the completion of the completion date of 31st of January. Who has access to the questionnaire? It's only the person who detained the username, the password, has access to the questionnaire. We will show you, as you know, when you log in the questionnaire, you will have for you as for national focal points, section 1 and section 2. You can see all the questionnaire which is related to your country. So who has the final say? As national focal point, you will be the one responsible for validating section 1 and also section 2 and submit to the World Trade Center. You have a submission button on your right-hand side, which of each sections, which allowed you to submit the questionnaire to the center. This being said, site managers do not have this button, submission button. You can still export your questionnaire into Word and PDF if you need to read it or you prefer to have hard copy, so you can still read it. But be aware that all the answers, the questionnaire should be submitted electronically only. Should I work only on the online tool? Yes, as I said, the questionnaire, as it should be submitted electronically, all your answers should be sent via the platform. I mean, your questionnaire, sorry. You have also the possibility for section 2 you will see in section 2 next week that some questionnaire has data, especially on factors affecting the properties, what has been said or what has answer been given in the previous cycle by the previous focal points or by you if you were the focal point in the previous cycles. You get logged out. When you log in, you have a small button below, small box where you should tick to save your password so that next time you do not get logged automatically. Be aware that after 30 minutes of inactivity on the periodic reporting platform, you get logged out automatically by the system. This is for security reasons. Character limit in the boxes are around 500 characters, and in some boxes there is 1,200 characters character limit. So this is for easy to ease the way of analyzing the questionnaire, because if you have too long comments, this will not be easy for people afterwards to look at all of them. So in case, especially for transboundary properties, you can still send additional comments by email at the address wh-periodicreporting@unesco.org. Questionnaire for serial transnational sites is the same. is a bit specific because all site managers have access to the transnationals this is serial and transnational sites, or for serial sites, you have not a questionnaire for each component of your site. You have only one questionnaire as it is inscribed on the world exists as one site, one property. Also, this is the case for transnational and transborder properties where you have only one questionnaire for the site. This means that site managers should work in collaboration with other site managers in order to fill out the most fill out the questionnaire. And this is another procedure that we're going to explain next week. In any case, you have this the help button or guidance also in the for some of the questions, most of them actually, which will help you also to, if you don't understand the question, you might want to look at the guidance in order to have more clarification. And in any case, if the question is not clear to you enough, you can still write to us at the email address wh-periodicreporting@unesco.org and copying Anatole and Akane and Michelle, and so that one of us can just respond to you as quick as possible. I think this is it from my part. If Anatole, you might want to take over, or if you want me to carry on, that will be also the same.
I'm happy to take over, Valentino, but please feel free to jump in. We have the great luck of having you around with experience with several cycles and regions of periodic reporting, so it's very useful for all of us. Just very briefly on the interface of periodic reporting, once you have logged in, and let me try to share this live, which will be more interesting for all of us, provided that the platform lets me do that. Let's see. Just 1 second. There we go. So once you have logged onto the World Heritage Center's website, logged into the periodic reporting questionnaire, you will land and clicked on section 1, which is the topic of today. You will land on the very beginning of the questionnaire. You can always go back to the home of the PR questionnaire here. And you can navigate through the entire questionnaire as follows at the top. The most useful thing that you can do is click on navigation, which will give you much information. It will let you go through the entire list of all questions that are asked by chapter. And as you can see, there are 15 chapters in section 1, which is quite a lot for us to go through in a short amount of time this morning. And then you can access individual questions within that navigation. It also shows you, this is our demo version, so it is partially filled out, which is hopefully closer to your experience very soon. But it lets you see as well straight away which questions have been answered in full and where all of the information has been saved, and which ones have not yet been completed. So for instance, here 1.1 has not yet been validated, 1.2 and 1.3 have. You can see your progress in percentages at the top, and you can then go through everything. The all-important button here, as Valentino mentioned earlier, is the Save button. It is an online tool, which means that sometimes it can be a little bit finicky, and it can occasionally have a mind of its own. So the more you save, the safer we all are, and then your information is recorded and hopefully kept safely somewhere, and we can all carry out the exercise together. Let me go back to the presentation very quickly. So that we can go through the different types of questions that you will encounter as part of the exercise before we move on to the done all of this live. And before we move on to the contents of the questionnaire. Okay, so just as a quick reminder, there are two sections to the questionnaire. Section, you have access as national focal points to both Section 1 and Section 2. Section 1 is about the implementation at the national level of the 1972 World Heritage Convention. Section 2 is about the implementation at the property level for each and every property. One questionnaire only for serial, transnational, transboundary properties. There are a number of topics that are covered by the exercise. As you may remember, the core ones are state of conservation, which is mainly Section 2, synergies, which is on both sides. There are transversal questions on sustainable development, and we will do a specific training on this aspect. Questions of governance, which are shared with Sections 1 and 2, questions of management and capacity building, same thing. And there are a lot of chapters. There are more questions in Section 2 than Section 1, but some of Section 1 requires you to reach out and obtain some information from a variety of partners. So I would encourage you to reach out as soon as possible. In terms of types of questions, there are, as you can see, a number of them. The easiest ones are the confirmation questions. This is statutory data that is especially present in the first chapter of the questionnaire. This is just for all of us to verify that we are in agreement about what we are reporting on. Basically, this is information that has been approved by the committee or that is relating to the adoption or the membership status or the agreement to the convention. This is non-information that can be changed directly, and this will be true of all of these boxes. If you see any inaccuracies, please use the update. The guidance will always tell you whether and how this information can be changed. And usually it involves formal submissions to the committee, etc., etc. So provided that everything's correct, you can just click validate or otherwise update will give you options of what to do. The other one is regarding radio buttons. It's very simple. You click the buttons to the question. For instance, 213, does your state party intend to designate any World Heritage properties for inclusion on the list of wetlands of international importance in the next 3 years? This is an easy yes/no questions with radio buttons. Then you can have check boxes where you can check one or several boxes at the same time, depending on the question. So for instance, if you have a group of stakeholders, you can choose one or more. As always, right next to the question number, you have the little guidance tab, which will give you information about this question and link to a number of resources, including the definitions and the list of key terms, which are integrated in the questionnaire. Rating scales are an important part of the questionnaire in both sections. They are usually on 5 levels from 0 to 4, and they allow you to rate involvements and sort of a wide variety of things. Please take the time to do them. They can be slightly daunting, large tables, but take a deep breath and go through them step by step. They actually provide a lot of very important quantitative information for the analysis of the questionnaire. You also have a number of items that you can either add or where you can provide information in open comments, which allows you to provide information that wasn't foreseen or that we could not provide as the World Heritage Center in the questionnaire. You will see that some information is pre-filled from previous cycles, etc. But you also have some space to comment, to provide additional information on specific questions. There are fewer, for those of you who have gone through the cycles before, there are fewer than in previous cycles, but you still have possibilities to express or share additional information. Percentages and numerical entries also form an important part of the questionnaire. These we will come back to some of these in more detail, but please make sure that these are filled out in consultation with the various partners that are required to obtain this information. It is very helpful if this information is correct. We've had some cases in other regions where some of the questions were not fully understood. So we'll go back to one of the more important ones later on. Finally, you will find grids and tables of various formats where you can sort of select one or more or rate the involvement of stakeholders in various aspects of the implementation of the convention. There are also multiple choice questions. And at the end, and we'll come back to this when we get to the end of all of the chapters, chapter 13 includes, and 15 actually, require assessments, and chapter 13 is a priority assessment, which is a direct result of the information that you have put into the questionnaire, upon which you will be asked to reflect before submission. And as I've said, the guidance is in the questionnaire. Very quickly, because time is running away from us this morning and we have quite a lot of ground to cover, so we'll go through very quickly through all of the chapters one by one, flagging the most important content. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to put them, and I've seen some of you have done so. Put them in the chat of the meeting, and we will get back to them at the end. Hopefully, we'll have cleared up a number of them in the process, but please don't hesitate. And to my colleagues, please don't hesitate to jump in if you see that I forget anything. In our rush to get this done in a relatively decent amount of time, this is content that we would usually do in about an hour and a half to 2 hours in a live workshop. So we are setting quite the task for ourselves. So section 1 and chapter 1, excuse me. Section 1, chapter 1 contains the statutory information. As I've said, a lot of it, as you can see, is validation. Once you have done this, you can click save before you move on to the next chapter, and you have seen as well that the questionnaire sort of forces your hand into saving the data, because there's nothing more frustrating than having to fill out the same thing several times. Chapter 2 gathers information on the agreements that states parties are involved in. This concerns synergies with other conventions, programs and recommendations, and it presents the information that we have on record at the World Heritage Center, and it covers the multilateral agreements between UNESCO and the 1972 convention, but also the way that it interacts with other instruments. There are a number of partners for us in this exercise, notably the 1954 UNESCO Convention on the Protection of Cultural Property in the Event of Armed Conflict, the 1970 Convention on the Means of Prohibiting and Preventing the Illicit Import, Export, and Transfer of Ownership of Cultural Property, the 2001 Convention on Underwater Cultural Heritage, the 2003 Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage, and the 2005 Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions on the cultural side. And there are ways for you to indicate how the states parties at the national level have organized the coexistence and the interaction of these various instruments. And the same is true, and for this I pass the floor to my colleague Akane Nakamura for the synergies between biodiversity-related conventions. Akane, please.
Okay, thank you, Anatole, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to make a small intervention here. So there are currently 8 conventions, which are members of the liaison group or biodiversity-related convention, which is known as BLG, including the World Heritage Convention. So 7 conventions are currently listed in the questionnaire, but we are actually missing 1 convention, which recently joined BLG, which is the International Convention for the Regulation of Whaling. Because the questionnaire was adopted by the committee before they joined the BLG. So therefore, we would like to kindly request all national focal points to add this International Convention for the Regulation of Whaling if your state party is contracting government, so that we could have a complete picture of synergies with all the biodiversity related conventions. So, and we now we don't have enough time to go in depth, but we organize a separate session at a later date to look into more details on the questions related to synergies. So thank you, and over to you, Anatole.
Thank you very much, Akane. And indeed, there's quite a lot of ground to cover this morning. And as we have announced previously, we will do specific sessions dedicated to a number of topics. We're finalizing the schedule at the moment, but we can for sure promise you one on synergies between conventions. We can definitely promise you one on questions of OUV, on questions of boundaries, and sort of all of the more thorny issues, where we'll also have participation from a variety of experts and other colleagues who deal with these questions in depth a lot of the time. But today is just a quick review so that we're all on the same page on how to use the questionnaire. So once you've gone through all of the natural and cultural conventions, the UNESCO programs, Man and the Biosphere being one of the big ones, for instance, the synergies, and you have rated them and so on and so forth. As you can see, there's quite a lot of scrolling involved. You can save, and then you can move on to the chapter 3, which looks at tentative lists. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with this, but it asks about the tools and the approaches that have been used to compile the tentative lists and whether a sustainable development approach has been used, and if there is potential within the tentative list for synergies. It also asks about the stakeholders, notably, that have been involved, as you can see, in the tentative list, and checks some of the UNESCO priorities, such as gender equality, and this is an important aspect for our reporting as well, because it's part of the commitments that not only we as an organization, but also all of you as member states of the organization have made when becoming member states and states parties to the convention. Once you have gone through this, you can move on to chapter 4, which asks about nominations and whether the nomination process has been inclusive, who has been involved in the process. It asks about attitudes to World Heritage in the country, notably the question of perceived benefits of a World Heritage inscription, and the role that the World Heritage properties will play in sustainable development, be it the SDGs or how it interacts with the 2015 World Heritage and Sustainable Development Policy document, which is linked to this. As you can see, there's space for a little bit of comments, and then you can move on to chapter 5, which looks at general policy development. It looks at the legal framework for the protection and conservation of heritage and the effectiveness of its implementation. You will be asked about the main legislation in your countries. This is pre-filled from the UNESCO database of national cultural heritage laws. And so therefore, this is information that you can validate or update in your comments. The actual process to update the database itself is a little bit more involved, but if you see major inaccuracies, please do flag them, and you can comment on these pieces of legislation as well. The chapter also goes into questions of whether heritage protection is integrated into national sustainable development strategies and whether the 2011 UNESCO recommendation on the historic urban landscape, also known as in short as the HUL recommendation, is being used, and whether strategies and policies are in place for its implementation, and to set national policies or strategies. It asks, as you can see, on several different levels about identification, conservation and protection in terms of legal framework. It is a rather comprehensive set of questions, but should be relatively easy to fill out for you. If there are any questions on this, and you're completely stumped, do feel free to reach out to us, or and as a first step always, and we'll come back to this at the very end, but use the resources and the explanations that are provided either through the questionnaire in the guidance or through the frequently asked questions document, which we will link at the end of our presentation. So in the spirit of time saving, let's go on and look at chapter 6, which looks at inventories, lists, and registers of cultural and natural heritage, which are a very first step in the states parties' responsibilities under the Convention to identify and register heritage in general, and not just World Heritage or potential nominations. So it looks at how inventories are compiled, how they are used, and again, how they integrate a sustainable development approach. And that's, as you can see, it's a relatively short chapter. Chapter 7 takes us through the status of services for the identification, protection, conservation, and presentation of natural and cultural heritage, which is to say, how do agencies for cultural and natural heritage cooperate at the national level and with other government agencies, and how does that lead to the implementation of the states parties' responsibilities under the 1972 Convention. You can rate the level of cooperation. You can indicate that everything's fine, that there is room for improvement, that there is no cooperation, depending on your national situation. And we will see how this comes back as a point in the end. But yes, it's a short chapter as well. You have the luck that in section 1, a lot of the chapters are actually quite short. So it can go a lot faster than filling out some of the section 2 questionnaires, especially for complex properties. Chapter 8 is about financial and human resources, funding sources that are available in your respective country, and assessments of whether the budget that is available to World Heritage properties is sufficient, and the percentage of total annual expenditure that is devoted to heritage purposes, which is question 8.4. We would like to point out that it is total annual public expenditure is, because this is a slight issue that we've had with other regions in the past. This concerns the total annual public expenditure of your country. This is not the total annual expenditure of the Ministries of Culture or of the Environment. This is for the entire countries. That means that generally the percentage will be very low. While we would be thrilled that 95% of the annual public expenditure goes towards World Heritage, it is extremely unrealistic. And so therefore, usually you are in the single-digit percentages. So please do bear that in mind when you fill this out. This might require a little bit of research into how much of the total annual public expenditure goes towards the respective ministries, how much of that budget goes towards heritage questions, and how much of it goes towards all aspects related to World Heritage. So this one might require a little bit of digging. Yes, Valentino.
If I may just add on this
Absolutely,
question. This question, as Anatole said, has a lot of difficulties in answering. Please note that generally, according to the World Bank or other organization, that a total annual expenditure, the total annual expenditure spending on cultural natural heritage in countries generally do not go further than, above 2%. So if you make a calculation and you come to have 10% and 20%, you may wish to look again, because you generally do not go beyond 2%. So just be careful on this, because this is a bit complex question, because we are asking you to calculate what is the amount spending on cultural natural heritage from the whole total annual expenditure. So this question sometimes has create some difficulties or issues with national focal points to find the accurate one. So this is what I just want to flag. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentino. Absolutely, and this is also why questions like these are why you have a lot of time to fill out the questionnaire in the end, so that you can spend a bit of time researching specific questions such as these, where the information can be a little bit trickier or involve more research to obtain it. So rating of human resources, moving on to chapter 9 after this, which is on capacity building and capacity development. It requires you to prioritize, as you can see in question 9.1, the capacity building needs of the country in different fields, etc. And for a number of different questions that are at the core of the convention, and the priority target audiences, which is equally important. There is a 2011 capacity building strategy, as all of you know, which is reported on every year at the committee, and which will have its anniversary next year. And you will be asked to indicate how you're using this strategy and what is in place at the national level in terms of capacity development for for World Heritage. Chapter 10 does go into detail about policies and resourcing for World Heritage specifically. The previous questions were on heritage legislation, so this goes into heritage-specific, World Heritage-specific legal provisions, and especially whether heritage services that are provided by the national agencies are effective, how they are implemented, and whether sustainable tourism, which is one of our important questions for World Heritage, especially these days, is being planned, is integrated into the legal framework, and is implemented appropriately. There's room, as you can see, to indicate additional information and to assess various aspects of the legal frameworks that surround World Heritage in your respective countries. This one is rather important for us, because this is information that does not get updated really that easily outside of periodic reporting. So we're very grateful for your thorough filling out of this section in particular. Chapter 11 deals with international cooperation activities and mechanisms. We will probably go a little bit into detail on this during specific sessions, so I won't spend too much time on it. Chapter 12, which is dedicated to education, information, and awareness building, essentially goes into how the state party promotes all forms of outreach activities and awareness building activities around World Heritage. There are groups of stakeholders that we are looking for. Obviously, this is in line with the UNESCO priorities and the Sustainable Development Goals, etc. And it is very much in line with the 5 C's, the strategic priorities of the World Heritage Committee, especially the 5th C, which is communities. We have a strong emphasis on outreach to communities and to showing the importance of World Heritage in the lives of those who are closest to it. And so this will be an opportunity for you as well to show how and to what extent these outreach activities are carried out and how they are framed at the national level. Bear in mind that this will also be a question that will be asked at the property level in section 2. This is one of our strategic priorities. Chapter 13 is automatically generated essentially, and I will switch to very briefly to the presentation because it's easier to show on a than on the questionnaire that hasn't been filled out yet. But essentially, Chapter 13 is going to aggregate the main results that were given in the questionnaire, and that it will display essentially priority content and priority areas that have been identified. And if you will be asked to identify relevant actions that need to be taken, my presentation doesn't work anymore. Okay. In that case, the states, so as you can see, there are priority and important questions that have been flagged as you answered the questionnaire, which are sort of key aspects. This is, as you will recognize, your main chapters here, and the core outcomes. This is our demo version, so it's partially filled out, but when something was not entirely positive or was a priority area, it is reflected in Chapter 13, which is auto-generated once you have filled out the rest of the questionnaire. So as you can see, this you will have a list of highlighted points here, and
Anatole, sorry,
yes.
sorry. Your presentation is not showing at the moment.
Yes. Oh, this is interesting. Okay.
Much better, yeah.
So, as you can see, Chapter 13 auto-generates the highlighted parts of the questionnaire and the answers that may require follow-up actions. This is automatically generated as you filled it out. It generates this part, and so it's let's see. There you go. So you will have all of these. You will be asked, once you have read through all of this, you will be asked to select up to 10 top issues that have arisen from the answers that were given to the questionnaire. Once you have selected these issues, and once you have reviewed the main results of the questionnaire, you will have to choose up to 10 of them, which will then lead you to the next page on the questionnaire, which is to say that you will make a priority actions assessment. And what this means is that for every highlighted priority action, a priority from the questionnaire that you have selected in the step before, you will be asked to provide, so let's say that the state party is not using the provisions of the 2011 Hull recommendation. You can select freely the text of the action that you will take. You can add a description of this action. You can say who will be involved. You can give a time frame, and you can indicate whether this action will require or may require rather international assistance under the World Heritage Fund. So the same will be asked for every highlight that you have chosen. And so it can be any question that has not only been seen as an important point in the questionnaire, but also that you have highlighted. And so you get to pick actions. These actions will be part of the questionnaire, and they are, in a sense, an individual action plan at the national level for you to follow and to guide you in the implementation of the convention in the future. Very briefly, because time is truly running away from us, once you have done all of this, you have the opportunity to share good practices in the implementation of the convention in Chapter 14. These can be any form that you wish. We fully and entirely encourage you to share these good practices with us. We do have ways of putting them on the website, and it is something that we are continuously looking into on how to make them as accessible as possible to all stakeholders who may be interested in knowing what is being done about World Heritage in other countries, so that they may take inspiration from it. And so we fully encourage you to fill out a good practice example, indicate which main aspect of the questionnaire. You will recognize the 6 core areas that we discussed at the beginning this example refers to, and then you can save and move on to the last chapter, which is our very meta chapter. This is an assessment not of you, but of the questionnaire itself. Its main aim is for you to make suggestions once you have filled everything out on how to improve the questionnaire for future cycles, indicate how data will be used, indicate which training and support you have received in the process and from whom. This is important for us as well to verify essentially that everything has gone right, and to see how many people are in touch with which stakeholders. There we go.
Anatole, just quickly,
yes.
I think this is a perfect time to answer one of the questions we had in chat, which asks, can you change your answers in section 1 later on? Do you have to do this all in one go?
Absolutely not. The whole point of the questionnaire is that you have a long amount of time to do so. If my presentation worked, I would show you the timeline again, but I'm just going to give it to you orally. So you have between the 1st of October and the 31st of July as our reporting period. And you are strongly encouraged to use the 2 mid-cycle submission deadlines. The first one is the 31st of January for section 1. The second one is the 30th of March, 31st of March rather, for section 2 of the questionnaire. This will allow us and the partners, the mentors, the advisory bodies, the category 2 centers, etc., to read through the questionnaire answers that you have provided and to give you feedback. So there is ample time to fill this out. That's also why you are saving your answers. They stay in the system. You can edit them up until the last day of the submission window. And there will be an opportunity, as I've said, once the questionnaires have been undergoing the preliminary review in January and July, and March and July for each section, to go back to the questionnaire, to specify, to change and revise some of the questions based on the feedback that you get on the questions that you raise, etc. So it's not a one-time only. This isn't an online test. You have all the time in the world to fill it out. Some of the questions are trickier than others, so it's absolutely foreseen that you get to go back and clarify things, change things as much as you want, up until the submission deadline.
All right, and we also have one other question in chat, which asks, dear Mr. Anatole, the expenditure information is for culture and natural World Heritage properties only, or any property identified by the state party in our respective country? I think the expenditure information for cultural and natural World Heritage properties. Sorry, Valentino, maybe you can answer this question because I believe the question is phrased differently in the questionnaire.
Can you hear me? Because I have a problem with I cannot see you. So can you please just repeat quickly what is the question on
Yes.
public?
We can also hear you quite well. So
Okay.
The question asks if the expenditure information with regards to heritage, I believe, is for cultural and natural World Heritage properties only, or for any property identified by the state party in our respective countries.
It is the second one. It's that it's all heritage in the country, natural, cultural heritage, be it World Heritage or not. So it includes both. For all questions, when there's no specific mention of World Heritage properties, it means generally heritage, natural, cultural heritage in your country. So this is something that national government may wish to consider. Just carefully deal with the question, because when there will be specific question on World Heritage, it will clearly mention World Heritage. If not, Section 1 is about implementation of heritage generally in the state parties. So for this question 8.4 and 8.5 on annual public expenditure, it will be heritage. Generally heritage, natural and cultural heritage, preservation, protection, identification in the country.
I think we have one question which is coming in the chat. If anybody has any other questions, please write them in chat or use the raised hand function, like so.
There's a question. There's a question from
Yeah.
Momtila, but this question actually is linked with the section 2 of the questionnaire concerning serial properties and transnational property. So I will suggest, as Frank has mentioned also, that we don't mix section 1, section 2. We discuss this question later next week on section 2 concerning serial properties.
Yes, just a quick one. I don't know if we've answered this already, but there is only one section 1 and one section 2 questionnaire per state party and per property respectively. When there are 2 focal points for nature and culture, there is only still one questionnaire that gets submitted by everybody. This was in a response to one of the earlier questions. And this is where good coordination at the national level is very important. And we will go next week when we look at section 2. We will go into also the modalities for national focal points to verify, validate, freeze, whatever the questionnaires for section 2 that are under their responsibilities for validation. But we'll go into all of that next week.
And there's a question from Sanjay Kumar concerning, is it Sanjay Kumar? Because I cannot see clearly, or Sarehead. Does it include national heritage or site inscribed on the World Heritage and tentative list? As far as concerned, tentative list is a national heritage, cultural or natural heritage in the country. So when you are covering the question 8.4 and 8.5, it's included also sites on the tentative list because it doesn't concern exclusively World Heritage.
Okay, so just as a quick reminder to everyone, all of the guidance tools have been shared with you in the past, but you can also find all of them on the World Heritage Center's website at whc.unesco.org. On the periodic reporting page, you will have the handbooks for site managers, all of the training modules. You will have the list of frequently asked questions, which was one of our key useful documents to have. It's a PDF, so you use your search function in it to find the information that you need. It is fairly well done, and it answers a lot of questions up front. And you also have access to a number of training videos and to the list of key terms used in the questionnaire, all of which is reflected as well in the online version of the questionnaire through the guidance tabs. So do make good use of this. If you have any questions, we are always at your disposal within the limits of our capacities and our waking hours at wh-periodicreporting@unesco.org. Yeah, do not hesitate to reach out. This is rather the point of us doing this exercise. Reach out also to the field offices who may be in a more useful time zone for you. And if you have, or if they have any questions, they can always forward us as well their queries, and we will do our best to answer them quickly. We have one question from Fiji, I believe, on the submission of annual expenditure.
So I think very briefly, the reason why we're giving a of January is so that we can give you the time to contact the correct people for the more complicated and in-depth questions. So in the case of annual expenditure for cultural and natural heritage sites apart from World Heritage, it will be a slow process for some, which is why we encourage everyone to start as early as possible to reach out to the different ministries and various individuals who can help you obtain this information so that you can submit it at least within a reasonable amount of time. As well as for the access for site managers, please be sure, if you haven't already, please be sure to contact wh-periodicreporting@unesco.org so that we can address these connections issues as soon as possible. If they haven't already, please encourage your site managers to check their spam and/or junk mail. Because there are many occasions where an automated message for access to the online platform was sent directly to their spam box, and this will cause some delays. So be sure to check with them after we've resent the mail. I think
absolutely. And on an unrelated note, but a rather important one, we absolutely welcome translations into national languages of the questionnaire and all of the documents. If you have done so, we have received a handful already through our field offices. Please do not hesitate to share them with us or to let us know that it has been done. If possible, we can try and put the handbook into the same layout that it is done in the official versions, which are English and French. Otherwise, it can always be as an add-on to the downloadable PDF. But it is translating, especially section 2, is quite possibly one of the most useful things that can be done, and I know that many have already made efforts in that direction, because it does facilitate the work of site managers rather greatly. Yes, if you have done so, we are always thrilled to hear about it, so please don't hesitate to share.
I'll take. Sorry, I think I would also take a point to mention the video recordings of the sessions. In short, the videos for all of the sessions that we've held since the beginning of the exercise will be available to you on our Teams platform, as well as a link within the Teams platform that you can share with your site managers. While this is not necessarily important for section 1, it will be very important for next week's session on section 2, where we will present to you the national focal points, the different parts of section 2, but then share we would hope that you would take these video recordings and share them with your site managers. If you have any questions to this regards, please be sure to contact us as soon as possible so we can give you the access needed for these recordings.
Thank you very much, Michelle, and that's very important. It's all of this is made available to help. So we have made sure that the videos and are shared, and that you can download and peruse the presentations that are made during these sessions at a time that is suitable for you and for the site managers. So don't hesitate to share. This platform is obviously meant for national focal points, meaning the Teams platform, but the resources are meant for wider distributions. Any other questions? Okay, I see none. Fang, you wanted to say a few words in closing?
Okay. Okay, so yeah, thank you. Thank you all. I think really it's been a dynamic exchange by training through presentations, and also we received the chat on the side of the Teams platform. I like this way of the dynamic exchange. In fact, in a way, we try to help. We're lucky I have the talented team to provide assistance in this regard. Although this online training and information meeting is a sort of experimental phase for us due to the COVID situation. First thing I want to say, because this is the third training since the launch of the exercise in October, at very beginning of October, we were soon to prepare a schedule, a program of all the training sessions to be made available. I think after these 3 or 4 sessions, we'll go, I think, every 2 weeks, Thursday mornings, because in any event, this is also, I would say, additional workload for the Asia Pacific unit. We have to deal with all the other statutory things like the organization of the Future Bureau, and also the 44th session of the World Heritage Committee. I think these are the also tasks in front of us. Quickly, 2 points on section 1. I think this is the periodical reporting exercise is very useful. I went through so far all the third cycles. First, I think it's a self-assessment for all the national focal points, and also for the national authorities to the application of the World Heritage Convention. And I think this way it to be, it's be useful. So as a self-assessment exercise, and also help you to better implement the convention. Secondly, I think this way of periodical reporting, we can know all the national focal points, the site managers, exchange our experiences and knowledge. So in a way to strengthen the regional cooperation. I think Anatole just presented the good practices. I think through this platform, we can also exchange some of the good cases or best practices in terms of conservation and management of World Heritage sites. So in closing, I would say, I hope that this exchange being initiated by us could provide some useful and practical information to you for your conduct of this business. Thank you. So I have another urgency call, and so I stop here. Wish you a nice day or a happy evening, or also during this difficult period, please take care and stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye.